film isn't about gang violence in the inner city. There's only a couple of violent acts in the whole movie. Go on programs and they say, oh, the gang film Boyz n the Hood. The film is not a gang film. The film is about a black man.
On the set of Boyz n the Hood, real gang members threatened the production. Some actors wore real explosives, while a 23-year-old director with no studio experience put his entire future on the line with one massive demand. In this video, we show you 20 behind-the-scenes secrets that show the danger on set. How many of these stories do you already know? And which one is going to surprise you the most? Join us as we unveil the secrets hidden for decades. Number 20. They filmed behind a shield van. A Bloods member watched the dailies and saw Doughboy shooting someone who looked like a Blood on screen. After that, he told the crew straight that if something happened to Ice Cube, it wasn't on him. It wasn't an empty warning. The production team quickly set up a van behind the cameras during exterior shots, basically using it as a barrier in case a drive-by hit the set. They were shooting a drama rooted in South Central street life while dealing with active tensions from the same world. It wasn't a studio fear tactic or Hollywood legend. The cast and crew worked with the pressure of real bullets, real threats, and a level of set security most directors never prepare for. But the real risk wasn't just what was happening in the streets. Singleton also pushed his actors in ways that got inside their heads. How far did he go? Number 19. The actors never knew when shots would be fired. Every flinch, every tight breath, every jump when shots ring out on screen came from real stress. Singleton didn't warn the cast when the squibs or blank fire would hit. He wanted them to react in real time, not deliver rehearsed emotion. Nobody on set could fully relax because they never knew when a blast charge or practical gunfire effect would go off. It created a raw working environment you rarely see outside documentary filmmaking. What the camera caught wasn't a traditional performance technique. It was actors dealing with real adrenaline, real tension, and the kind of set conditions you usually only hear about in war films. Singleton understood that authenticity would burn itself into the final cut and leave an impact on audiences. Singleton's mind games were intense, but one actor dealt with something far more serious. Imagine stepping in front of the camera with live charges under your clothes. What could go wrong? Number 18. Morris Chestnut wore live explosives. For Ricky's final scene, Morris Chestnut had practical squibs taped to his body beneath his wardrobe. These are small explosive charges used for physical effects to show bullet impact on camera. He wasn't a seasoned screen actor yet, so he was dealing with real pressure while trying to hit his marks and stay in character. Chestnut later said he was just trying not to mess up on his first professional job while running with live effects wired to his torso. During the chase sequence, he slipped on the pavement and almost had his legs hit by Ice Cube's Impala, which was moving at real driving speed for the shot. He pulled himself out of the way, and Singleton kept everything in the picture. Chestnut pushed through all of that as a newcomer, but the person asking him to take those risks had already placed an even bigger bet. But at what cost? Number 17. The director was paid to walk away. John Singleton had never directed a feature when Columbia Pictures tried to buy his script. They were ready to pay him a solid fee and hand the project to a veteran filmmaker. Singleton shut it down on the spot and told them the meeting was finished. He wasn't about to let someone who didn't grow up in South Central shape a story based on his own lived experience. He believed the director needed to understand the neighborhood, the rhythm, the culture, and the stakes. The studio eventually backed him with a $5.7 million production budget, giving him full creative control. At 24, he ended up becoming the youngest filmmaker ever nominated for the Best Director Oscar, a milestone that still stands decades later. Singleton fought hard to protect his film, but even with all that confidence, his ideal choice for Doughboy nearly didn't survive the casting process. So what went so wrong during auditions? Number 16. Ice Cube bombed his own audition. Ice Cube came into the audition as one of the biggest names in rap, yet his first read for Doughboy fell flat. His delivery didn't feel natural, and the room could tell. The executives were ready to move on and cast someone with more acting experience. Singleton wasn't willing to give up and offered him one more chance. Cube went home with the screenplay and looked at it in a new way. He realized The story wasn't just a movie script. It was a real portrait of the community he grew up in. He hadn't fully understood that their everyday reality was something Hollywood wanted to put on film.
Doughboy, got some blow, got some rock?
Get the fuck out my face!
That shift in thinking changed his approach and ended up starting his entire screen career. Cube saved his role, but the studio didn't know something that might have changed their decision instantly. So what was it? Number 15. Columbia Pictures had no idea. Ice Cube was in NWA. The studio executives backing the film had no idea they were auditioning a member of NWA, a group already drawing national attention and government scrutiny. Ice Cube wasn't just a rapper with a hit record. He was part of a group releasing tracks like "Fuck the Police," facing public criticism and pressure that made national headlines. Columbia Pictures simply saw a new actor reading for a supporting role and liked what they saw. If anyone on the executive floor had realized the scale of the controversy attached to his name, there's a real chance they would have walked away from the casting altogether. Cube got lucky, but the casting choice seemed impossible. A father-son pairing that shouldn't work. So how did they pull it off? Number 14. The father was 7 years older than his son. Lawrence Fishburne stepped into the role of Furious Styles at 29 years old, playing the father of Cuba Gooding Jr., who was only 23 during production. It's a casting situation that usually raises eyebrows in pre-production meetings because the age gap is small enough to break the illusion on screen.
Look, I'm sorry about your friend. My heart goes out to his mother and his family, but that's their problem, Trey. You my son, you my problem.
He brought the presence of a man who had lived harder years, someone grounded in responsibility and discipline. His delivery, posture, vocal tone, and patience in each scene gave audiences everything they needed to believe he was a father raising a teenage son in South Central. Viewers accepted it without hesitation, which says everything about his performance. The age gaps worked, but one casting choice brought raw street trauma that no acting could fake. Who wasn't acting? Number 13. The paralyzed character was very real. Reg Green, cast as Chris in the wheelchair, wasn't pretending. Years before Boyz and the Hood, he had been shot and paralyzed from the waist down. Singleton chose him intentionally, refusing to let Hollywood fake the experience with an able-bodied actor. Green's presence added a layer of reality to the film that couldn't be replicated with stunts or makeup. His posture, his movements, even his expressions reflected real pain and resilience. When viewers watch Chris, they're seeing genuine history and survival, not a performance, which made the character and the movie resonate in a way only authenticity can. Green's truth hit hard, but another actor brought real street experience too. Number 12. Nia Long grew up in the streets. Nia Long, cast as Brandy, actually grew up in South Central, right where the film was shot. She later said she could have walked to the set from her own neighborhood, though that probably wouldn't have been the safest move. For her, the role wasn't about studying a script or researching a character. It was about reflecting her own life. She knew what it felt like to leave school and hear gunshots in the streets at night. That lived reality shaped every moment she delivered on camera. That connection gave her scenes weight that no rehearsal or acting workshop could replicate. Long had real street credibility, but another casting age gap was shocking. A mother with grown children. How old was she? Number 11. The mother was only 7 years older than her kids. Tyra Farrell played Brenda Baker, the mother of Doughboy and Ricky, yet she was only about 7 years older than Ice Cube and Morris Chestnut, who played her grown sons. She was in her early 30s, tasked with portraying a woman who had raised 2 men through years of hardship in South Central.
Boy, go get this girl some cornmeal. Shoot, you ought to be happy somebody's cooking for your ass.
On set, Farrell leaned into the weight of the character, carrying exhaustion, frustration, and care in every gesture and line. Her performance made it believable that she had lived through decades of struggle, even though the age gap was tiny. By the final cut, audiences accepted her as a mother shaped by years of challenges, a testament to her skill and presence on camera. The cast nailed impossible performances. But Singleton was learning to direct mid-shoot. How did he pull off learning on the job? Number 10. He learned directing skills on the job. Singleton filmed Boyz in the Hood entirely in sequence because he was learning the craft as he went. He admitted openly that he was figuring out directing on the job. As each scene unfolded, he was discovering camera angles, blocking, and pacing in real time. By the third act, the shots feel smoother, the camera work more confident, because he had grown with the story. Viewers can actually watch his skills improve as the movie progresses. Singleton even slipped in a subtle nod to his own journey when Furious says, "He is not getting old, he was getting better." It's almost like a line about Singleton himself, quietly acknowledging the risk and growth behind the lens, while making one of the most memorable films of the decade. Singleton's growth shows on screen, unusual, just like how he and his lead actor first connected somewhere unexpected. Where was it? Number 9. The lead actor was found at Pee-wee's Playhouse. Before Boyz in the Hood, John Singleton worked odd jobs in Hollywood, including as a production assistant and even a security guard on Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, they do look mighty poorly, don't they, people? You know, I sure do wish I had a new pair of boots.
Lawrence Fishburne was on the show playing Cowboy Curtis, and Singleton, bold even then, handed him the screenplay and asked what he thought. That seemingly random meeting planted the seeds for one of the most powerful father-son relationships in film history. Over the next 5 years, their connection deepened. Fishburne shared insights from his own career, even teaching Singleton directing techniques he'd picked up from Francis Ford Coppola. They'd sit in Singleton's apartment, eating pasta, drinking wine, and talking about Apocalypse Now, deep dives into pacing, shot composition, and character work. From a kid's show to Hollywood legend is wild, but the lead couldn't read a script fully. What exactly was the grand plan? Number 8. Cuba Gooding Jr. didn't know what EXT or INT meant. Cuba Gooding Jr. was so new to acting that when he auditioned, he couldn't even read a screenplay properly. He later admitted he didn't understand stage directions or abbreviations like XT and INT for exterior and interior shots. All he knew were the lines for his character, Trey, and the beats of the story, like when Furious, his father, was angry with him. Despite missing all the technical script knowledge, he focused on the emotion and relationships, and it shows. That raw focus allowed him to deliver a performance that still resonates decades later. He brought instinct and truth to the role, turning what could have been a stumbling block into one of the most memorable debuts in modern cinema. Gooding thrived on instinct, but real-life drama reshaped Singleton's cast. What feud caused it? Number 7. NWA's brutal breakup killed the original cast. Singleton originally planned for NWA members to play Doughboy's crew, bringing real-life friends into the fictional world. But the group had fractured months earlier when Ice Cube left NWA after a bitter financial dispute. The split had been messy, with diss tracks and public arguments flying between Cube and former bandmates, including Eazy-E. The tension was so real that Singleton worked it into the movie itself. In one scene, a character wearing an Eazy-E t-shirt is beaten, a direct and pointed reference to Cube's feud. Because of the hostility, none of the other NWA members ended up appearing in the film. Singleton had to navigate real-life conflict, ensuring the story stayed intact while reflecting some of the unresolved drama from Cube's past. Singleton used the NWA feud for on-screen tension, but another character reflected his own trauma. Which role carried his own story? Number 6. The abusive black cop. Officer Coffee, the black cop who intimidates Trey and responds to fear with, "I like that," wasn't invented.
I like that. That's why I took this job.
Singleton drew the character from a real officer he encountered as a teenager in South Central. He wanted to show a difficult truth. Police violence isn't only about race. Sometimes officers from the same community can perpetuate harm and fear. Coffee's presence in the story forced audiences to confront that reality, even when it was uncomfortable. Singleton refused to soften or sanitize it for Hollywood's comfort. The performance, the writing, and the scenes around Coffee carried this tension, showing how systemic and personal abuse can coexist. By grounding the character in his own experiences, Singleton created a figure who's unsettling but real. But the name wasn't always Boyz n the Hood. What was the first inspiration? Number 5. The film was originally called Summer of '84. When Singleton first wrote the screenplay for his USC Film School application in 1986, it wasn't called Boyz n the Hood. The working title was Summer of '84. Years later, he changed it. Inspired by the track Boyz n the Hood, here's the twist. That song had been written by Ice Cube before he left NWA, amid a bitter feud with the group. So the movie's title came from Cube's own work, performed publicly by someone he would later clash with, and that same Cube would go on to star as the lead in the film. The layers of irony are striking. A story about loyalty, family, and street life borrowed its name from music written by its star before he became embroiled in one of the most famous feuds in hip-hop history. The title story is tangled, but Singleton's emotions were raw. He broke down writing one line. So which line was it? Number 4. The director cried, writing the most famous line. When Singleton wrote Doughboy's final monologue, either they don't know, don't show, or don't care about what's going on in the hood, he literally broke down. On the DVD commentary, he explained that the line came straight from his own frustration with how much of America ignored black neighborhoods. The words weren't just coming from a character, they were Singleton's voice, yelling at a world that refused to see the struggles around him. That monologue captured his raw, unfiltered emotion, turning the film into a statement as much as a story. Singleton poured his pain into the script, but getting Cube to show it on camera challenged his identity. Number 3. Ice Cube couldn't cry. The scenes where Doughboy lets his guard down were the toughest for Ice Cube. As a rapper, he had built his image around being hard, unshakable, and emotionally closed off. Years of cultivating that persona meant he instinctively bottled up any vulnerability. Singleton pushed him to do the opposite, to let the audience see real pain, to allow himself to break down on camera. Every tear, every flinch in those scenes was Cube going against everything he had learned to protect himself, forcing emotion where he was trained to suppress it. That struggle made the moments on screen feel raw and earned. You can see the internal battle in his expressions, making Doughboy's vulnerability believable. It was Cube confronting himself for the sake of the story. Cube fought to show emotion, but another actor's feelings literally destroyed part of the set. So, what exactly happened? Number 2. Cuba Gooding Jr. punched a hole in a wall. The emotional intensity on set affected everyone deeply. On one particularly brutal day, Cuba Gooding Jr., overwhelmed by the scene, punched a hole straight through a wall. The crew had him sign it.
Why don't y'all take a look at that sign up there? See what it says?
Keeping it as a reminder of the raw emotion the film demanded. Nia Long walked off set crying after shooting Trey's frustration scene, while Lawrence Fishburne admitted he cried the first time he read the script. This wasn't just acting. It was an experience that demanded real emotional labor. The cast and crew were pushed to confront grief, anger, and frustration on a level few productions require. The scenes captured on camera were charged with that genuine energy, leaving impressions that stayed with everyone involved. The production drained everyone, but once the film hit theaters, the violence crossed into reality. So what occurred on opening night? Number 1. 2 people died at the theaters. When Boyz n the Hood premiered on July 12, 1991, screenings across the country turned chaotic. 2 people were killed, over 30 were injured, and 21 theaters pulled the film after opening night. Critics quickly blamed Singleton, accusing him of inciting violence. And even Mickey Rourke publicly claimed the movie had fueled unrest in LA. Singleton pushed back hard, insisting the incidents weren't caused by his film. They underscored his point. Despite the backlash, the film went on to earn nearly $60 million, receive 2 Oscar nominations, and shift Hollywood's approach to urban storytelling. With all the real danger, heartbreak, and raw emotion on set, how much of Boyz n the Hood was just a movie? Decades later, we know some of the secrets, risks, and personal pain that shaped the film, but how much more don't we still know? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.